rules for playing guitar solos, writing guitar solos. They aren't even really guidelines, guys. These are just solo concepts. I'm going to give you my personal approach to writing guitar solos. And this kind of came about as I'm writing guitar solos for my upcoming album here. I got stuck the other day. How many times have you got stuck writing guitar solos? Raise your hand. I see all those virtual hands going up, by the way. But I had to take a step back. Whenever I get hung up on something, I'll just stop, I'll take a step back, I'll breathe, and I'll really think about the purpose of what I'm doing. And there are some things I've been following for quite some time in my personal guitar solos and just writing music in general. We all get stuck from time to time, so I had to step back and then we had to remind ourselves of these principles that we kind of set for ourselves. It'll make sense. Let's dig into this, guys. So there are 5 things I want to share with you. And again, these aren't rules, they're just my personal approach. So, number 1, what do I want my solo to have? Okay, what's the most important thing to me about my guitar solos? And by the way, they're not really in a number of importance, but this one probably, it might be the most important to me. So, number 1 for me, guys, is this right here. Melody. I want my guitar solo to have some sort of melody. Why is that? Well, really it's just because I like it. I'm not saying your guitar solos need to have melodies in them. I prefer them. It's what speaks to me. And again, guys, this is very personalized to you. I want you to think through these things as we go through each one of them. Okay, think about what's the most important thing for your guitar solo. Some people just like to shred up and down the neck. Hey, if that's your thing, go for it. Me, I don't really want my solo just to be a bunch of notes, okay? I want some sort of melody. For me, the reason why is because if you think of the solos that stand out to you the most, the solos that are most memorable, there's this really cool melody. Sometimes you can hum along with that melody. This is why guitar players like Joe Satriani, they're so successful. He's so successful at what he does. He replaces the need for vocal lines with his guitar melodies. Yeah, he can do some of the fancy stuff, but he doesn't overdo it, right? So he has this sense of melody. It's why I love Kirk Hammett so much. He's got a great sense of melody, in my opinion. Slash, these are my 3 my 3 favorite guitar players growing up. This is back in 1989 when I first started. Those are my 3 biggest influences. I would say Kirk first because I got heavily into Metallica. Then Joe Satriani I heard soon after that, and of course I started listening to Guns N' Roses. You know, the Appetite album had just come out. So in any case, melody is most important to me because it's memorable. And to me, that's going to captivate the listener, and that's really my goal in writing music, man. I want to captivate the listener and just draw you in. So melody is super important to me. Number 2. All right, here we go. For all you shred guitar players. Shred, important. However, there's a caveat here. Sorry, my handwriting's messy here. Shred, but don't overdo it. And again, guys, I'll reiterate one more time. This is just for me personally, okay? Some people love to shred up and down the neck, and that's awesome. If that's you, if that's what you want to do, go for it by all means. I'm not telling you do or don't. For me personally, though, I want some fast stuff in there because it's just cool. It's fun. It's awesome when you can nail those notes down. When you get that cool little sweep arpeggio or that finger tap thing or whatever, you know. It sounds cool and it's impressive, okay? And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. However, for me personally, I don't want to overdo that. In other words, I want to make room for what we just talked about. I want to make plenty of room for the melody. To me, when you combine shred and melody, you've got something that's really powerful and also captivating. You've got the melody that's going to be memorable, but then you've also got these cool shred parts in there that people are like, whoa, what was that? So to me, that's just a killer combination there. All right, let's move on to number 3 here. My guitar solos must tell a story. And what I mean by that is kind of hard to explain. It sort of falls in line with the melody, and you've got some other cool shred parts in there. But I want the guitar solo to take the listener on a journey. I want it to tell a story. In fact, I want to go overboard, and I want my guitar solo to make the listener a part of that journey. I want the listener, if you're listening to my guitar solos, I want you to just like magically become a part of the journey. Now, to me, this is what songwriting is all about. Tell the story, okay? That song must tell some sort of story, whether it's an emotion it's driving, and it could be any emotion, or whether it's fantasy driven, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, but songwriting is basically storytelling. So I want my guitar solo to do the same thing. That guitar solo, if there are lyrics in that song, well, it kind of needs to complement those lyrics, okay? Well, how do you do that? Well, you go back to melody. What's some of the melodies in the song, right? What are some of the melodies like in the chorus? What are some of the themes of the song? Maybe you replicate a little bit of that on guitar to help tell that story even further and bring the listener into a deeper level of your song and your guitar solo. So this is important to me. If I don't feel like the guitar solo, for me, if I don't feel like it's telling a story that is bringing you on this magical journey with me, then I failed as a lead guitarist. Because if I'm just throwing up a bunch of notes on people saying, oh, look at me, look how fast I can play, and yada yada. Look, again, that's fine, to each their own. But I like for the guitar solo to tell a story. I want to be captivated by that guitar solo. I know it's a little hard to explain, but I do hope it makes sense. Hey, of course, I want to read your comments after we finish this video. Let's move on to number 4. When I'm playing guitar solos, when I'm writing guitar solos, I want it to feel natural. I want it to feel like a natural process. Now, let's go to a very practical explanation here. So let's say you're just learning how to do a specific technique. Let's say it's finger tapping. You're just starting out, you're just learning that. Maybe you don't want to write a guitar solo with that technique right yet, okay? Not quite yet. Maybe first, you want to get a little bit more proficient at that technique so that when you go to pull it off in your solo, it just flows. It feels natural. So that's the technical side of it, and you can apply that to any technique. For example, guys, I'll call myself out here. I'm not the best at playing sweep arpeggios. It's not something that I've practiced a lot over the years, so it's an area of weakness in my guitar playing if you were going to measure me by technical standards. And I'm okay with that. So I'm not going to try to put a bunch of sweep arpeggios, okay, into my guitar solos, especially if that's not something that I am, the best at, if that's one of my weak areas, and or if I haven't practiced that method enough, okay, to be at that level, and that's usually the case. Well, I'm not going to put that, I'm not going to force that into my solo, okay, because I haven't reached that level of proficiency that I can play that in a guitar solo, or maybe I do pull it off one time, but then I can't pull it off on stage. Well, I don't want to do that to myself. Now, again, that's the practical side of it feeling natural. There's sort of an emotional side to this as well. And us being guitar players, us being musicians, we hone in on that emotional side. I believe that for the most part that our emotions possibly run a bit deeper than the average or normal person does. That doesn't mean we're better or worse. It's just part of being a musician. It's part of being a creator. That's what we do. We create stuff. We create beautiful music. And it's an awesome thing to have. I'm thankful that you and I are watching this together. I'm filming this, you're watching it, but I'm glad that we're just in this realm together. It's so cool to be able to create music. It's such a gift and a talent, okay? So my solos, I want them to feel natural. I want them to feel a part of myself that I'm putting out there, and that I'm able to connect with other people, aka the folks that are listening to my music, my guitar solos. So I want that part to kind of flow naturally. Hopefully that makes sense as well. Number 5, last one. This might be the most important one here for a lot of us. This is going to resonate with many of you, by the way. I'm running out of room. Don't overthink your guitar solos. This can have you working on the same solo or the same part of a solo. You guys know what I'm talking about. This can have you just like obsessing over that, and then at the end of the day you usually end up changing that part to something that's not so overthought. This happens to a lot of us, writing music, playing riffs, even trying to learn other people's music. Sometimes we can catch ourselves just overthinking what we're doing, and it's not that you don't want to have a well thought out guitar solo, because maybe you do map it out, right? Maybe you say, well, I want this part of the solo to be melodic, then I want to go into a shred pattern, something that's just kind of fast and cool, then I want something else after that. That's okay. I don't really consider that overthinking. To me, overthinking is when when you just can't seem to pass go. That's when you're overthinking. So I say take a step back and just relax and just play, okay? Just play. Don't try to do this, right? I was trying to integrate this one little shred lick in there, and it wasn't working. So I kept trying and overthinking the process. Why isn't this working? But when you take a step back, allow yourself to breathe and just play and just feel what comes out. Again, going back to what feels natural to you, and keep moving forward that way. Sometimes, guys, you have to just step away for a little bit, maybe for the day. You know, that happens sometimes. Sometimes just you step away, go do something else, and then just come back to it tomorrow. Don't allow yourself to get frustrated by overthinking the process, though, because this right here, it will keep you in the same spot for a very long time, and you'll use that as an excuse not to move forward with your solo. Funny story about the whiteboard real quick. So when I was at my corporate job, I walked away from that about a little over 3 years ago now. But we had this new managing director, and he was big on whiteboards, and he let everybody know it. So whenever he would come down to visit, he was in New York, and of course I'm in the Tampa area. Of course, all of our managers and directors here in Tampa would say, okay, I need every aisle to have a whiteboard and write some stuff on it, you know, because the big shot's coming down. At the time, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Who cares? You know, I'm never going to use a whiteboard. Well, here I am using a whiteboard, and I get it. There is something magical about writing stuff down. And one thing I wanted to tell you in the beginning, we're a little late on this, but I want to encourage you, maybe go back through this video and get a notepad and just write down some ideas. Again, your 5 things I'm going to cover, I'll do a quick recap here. Your 5 things or your 4 things or 10 things, whatever, they may not be the same as mine. Guys, that is okay. We're all a little different. I wouldn't want everybody to write solos the way I do. Again, this is just kind of just sharing my approach, and maybe that'll give you some ideas, and that's what my videos are really all about. So a quick recap here. The number one important thing for me is melody. I want to have just a solid melody, something that's memorable about my solos, something people are like, okay, I've got that stuck in my head. That's normally going to be the melody. Number 2, shred, but I don't want to overdo that. I don't want to just throw up a bunch of notes on somebody, and I'm not writing music just for guitar players. I'm writing music for people that love rock and metal music. That's what this album's all about. So yeah, shred, I'm going to shred some, but I'm not going to overdo that because we want to leave room for what? The melodies. Number 3, I want my guitar solo to tell a story. In fact, I want it to make you part of the story as you're listening. You're like, okay, I'm going on this really awesome journey, and it just kind of takes you to this other land, you know, and you're part of the story now. So that's like really the purpose of my guitar solos. Number 4, my guitar solos need to feel natural to me. And remember, there are 2 sides to this. There's the technical side. I'm not going to try to pull off stuff that I don't practice on a regular basis, or that I'm just not good at, that I'm not proficient at. Creating a solo is not the time to do that. I need to practice that if I want that to be part of the solo, then put that into the solo so that when I go to play it in the studio and live, that it feels natural. The other part to that is it needs to feel natural to me emotionally as well. It needs to be part of who I am. Your guitar solo, the music you write, you know, is part of you. You're putting yourself out there. So I don't need to be thinking about, well, let me try to sound like this guitar player over here, or this song, one of my favorite songs has this little lick in it. Let me try to do something like that. No, none of that. It needs to come from my heart. It needs to come from me, what's deep inside, and it needs to feel natural. Number 5, and this is what kills a lot of our creativity, is don't overthink. And maybe if you don't get anything out of this video except for that one part, don't allow yourself to overthink so much, guys, because again, that can be just a stumbling block, and that can prevent us from passing go. It can prevent us from moving on to that next level. Again, it doesn't mean that you don't need to put thought into your song. You do, and that's part of the process, but you know what I'm talking about. When you get to that point, you get stuck, and you know it's because you're just overthinking the entire process. Step back, allow yourself to breathe, and sometimes you just need to play, and that's when the most beautiful things will come out of you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for updates on the album. I've been working on this for a long time. It has been through many changes. The album Overcometh. I've even recorded the guitar parts, rhythm guitars, more than once and have killed them. And talk about overthinking. It's just been a very long journey, but I've got clarity on it over the past couple of months, and I know the direction it's going. So now it's just a matter of, okay, one step after the other. So that is in the process. I will keep you updated by sharing content like what I shared today with you. I'm in the process of writing the guitar solos now. Guys, real quick, if you want to support the channel, of course, listen to my music. Look up Jason Stallworth on your favorite streaming platform. I've got a link to my music in the description. I also, as you know, have guitar courses, guys. All that good stuff is in the description of this video, so I appreciate the support. Guys, I hope you have an awesome day today. I hope this video helped you. If you have questions, of course, leave your comments. Until the next video, as always, keep it metal and keep playing music.